Welcome to today's explainer on the science of love and connection. Let's just jump right in, because I've been digging into this, and it turns out human connection isn't just some warm, abstract feeling. It's actually a deep biological imperative, and honestly, this completely reframes how we should be looking at our everyday relationships.
So have you ever actually wondered why being isolated physically hurts? Or why getting a simple hug can literally turn your entire day around? It's super easy to write off love as just, poetry or romance. But our brains and our bodies are hardwired for togetherness. We don't just want connection, we literally need it to survive.
But believe it or not, the scientific community used to completely ignore this whole concept. Back in 1958, pioneering psychologist Harry Harlow found that his peers actually thought love was too improper or unscientific for rigorous study. They kind of viewed humans like machines, driven purely by basic physical needs. Fortunately for us, science has come a really long way since then.
Here is our roadmap for today's explainer. First, the biology of connection. 2, your brain on love. 3, the health benefits. And 4, love beyond romance.
All right, kicking things off with Section 1, the biology of connection and our primal need for touch. You might be familiar with Harlow's famous macaque-monkey experiments. They brilliantly illustrate a stark contrast that completely changed the field of psychology. He basically gave infant monkeys a choice between two artificial mothers, a wire one that provided food and a soft cloth one that offered zero food but gave comfort. And the results? The infants overwhelmingly chose the cloth mother, clinging to it for security. They prioritized the emotional survival of comforting touch over the basic physical need for food. Comfort literally won out.
So what's actually happening in our bodies here? Well, safe physical touch acts like an instant reset button for our nervous system. A simple touch releases oxytocin, which you probably know as the love hormone, and that immediately suppresses cortisol, our primary stress hormone. This internal shift improves your sleep, regulates your mood, and physically signals to your brain's threat center that, hey, you are safe.
And this kind of warmth in early childhood, whether it's conveyed through smiles, gentle guidance, or physical affection, isn't just some nice bonus. It is the absolute critical building block for a healthy human brain, creating a secure foundation for lifelong social competence.
Moving right along to Section 2, your brain on love and the neurochemistry of romance.
The results from Harvard Medical School fMRI scans are pretty wild to look at. Just looking at a picture of a loved one literally lights up your brain's reward circuit. This is a super primitive, evolutionarily old network, and when it gets activated, it floods our brains with chemicals that create a massive rush of pleasure, highly focused attention, and intense motivation. It's actually very similar to the euphoria you'd get from a huge sugar rush or a hit of alcohol.
To put that intense chemical drive into perspective, get this. One really fascinating study looked at fruit flies, of all things. It turns out that sexually rejected male fruit flies actually drink 4 times as much alcohol as mated ones. They were just desperately trying to stimulate that exact same reward center in the brain.
And it's really fascinating how these chemicals basically orchestrate our feelings over time. Dopamine gives us that initial euphoric rush. But surprisingly, cortisol actually spikes during early romance. Our bodies are kind of treating infatuation like a crisis. Meanwhile, serotonin plummets, which totally explains those obsessive early thoughts about a new partner. Then, as the relationship matures, oxytocin swoops in to take over and build that calm, secure, monogamous attachment.
Which brings us to Section 3, the health benefits. Let's look at how connection actually heals the body.
Let's look at the heart first. The American Heart Association found that simply being in a loving, supportive relationship drops your risk of cardiovascular disease by 5%. Because love naturally lowers those stress hormones we talked about, it literally reduces blood pressure and inflammation across your entire cardiovascular system. But here is the really astounding part. Comprehensive longevity research shows that having strong social connections improves your overall survival odds by a whopping 50%. Just to put that into perspective, medical professionals literally equate the protective health effect of strong social bonds to quitting smoking. Isolation is no joke, a massive health hazard. Love just straight up fortifies your body. Aside from the cardiovascular perks, people in positive relationships show enhanced immune function. We're talking higher levels of immunoglobulin A, which is the antibody that actively fights off infections. Connection also quiets down the amygdala, our brain's fear center, which acts as a buffer against chronic pain, anxiety, and depression. Connection is basically medicine.
Finally, let's wrap up with Section 4, Love Beyond Romance, focusing on strengthening our communities and our resilience.
The best part about all of this? You absolutely do not need a romantic partner to reap these biological benefits. As we expand our circle, our chosen friendships and our broader community give us that exact same vital sense of belonging. As Bob Goff's quote beautifully reminds us, selfless love has the power to transform even the darkest places into meadows. Everyday acts of kindness really do have the power to heal.
Just think about those everyday moments we've all heard about, or maybe even experienced. A customer paying for the next 3 people in line at Dunkin' Donuts. A stranger finding a lost phone, dialing the contact labeled love, and making sure it gets returned safely. Or a bystander quickly scoop-hugging an elderly woman to save her from a nasty fall at Walmart. These seemingly mundane, everyday micro-connections are exactly what build up our collective emotional resilience.
So how can we actually cultivate this health-boosting resilience in our own lives? It starts super simple. Put down the digital distractions and prioritize true quality time. Practice active listening to create a space of emotional safety. Express your appreciation frequently to the people around you. And normalize safe, friendly physical affection, because as we've seen, even a brief hug makes a very real physiological difference. At the end of the day, connection is not just some luxury. It is an undeniable biological imperative that heals our bodies and absolutely protects our brains. So, knowing this immense power, who are you going to share a moment of kindness with today?